That's right, we have Rescue Ace actually making a splash out here, and then Necro Face and Friends decides to dial in. I'll make 30% of you that have not smashed the yellow crap out of that subscribe button. Smash it so you guys don't miss out. More awesome content. Yeah, we have a working TCG version of Rescue Ace without, Preventer and Emergency here. Locking down 13th place, and that might not be too impressive here, but out of 40 people, I'd consider it always kind of interesting just to see, a top 16 finish out here for what this deck can actually do. We're kind of bridging the gap here, heading forward for, new innovations here. So we'll take what we can get out here. So we have 2 copies of Turbulence, 2 copies of the Fire Engine, we got triple copies of Impulse, triple copies of the Hydrant, 2 copies of Airlifter, we got 2 copies of the Sunrise Signaler Gizmek, triple copies of Giant Nibiru, triple copies of Droll and Lockbird. We have 2 copies of Fenrir here for some little extra deck shenanigans. We have 2 copies of Ghost Ogre, and then we have 2 copies of Ash Blossom and Joy Spring, triple Magna Hut, and 1 copy of Drillsworm. Then we have 2 copies of Rescue Ace HQ, 2 copies of Small World. We got triple copies of Pot of Prosperity with your 1/1 for 1. We got 1 copy of Reasoning. Then we have 1 Called by the Grave, 1 Birth, 1 Rescue, 1 Alert, 1 Contain, 1 Extinguish, and 1 copy of Reinforce. Then we have 1 Baron, 1 copy of Underworld Goddess with your 1 Axis Code Talker, 1 Avermax with 1 Nightmare Unicorn, 1 Nightmare Phoenix with 1 copy of Codebreaker the Virus Swordmaster, 1 Dahark, 1 Win, 2 copies of Hida, we have 1 copy of Geonator, 1 IP, 1 Lingeribo, and 1 Anima. Then we have 1 Doggeron with triple copies of Lancia, 1 copy of the Performapal 5 Rainbow Magician, triple Dark Will No More, 2 Thrust, 2 Cyclone, 1 Herald of the Abyss, 1 copy of Harpy's Feather Duster, and 1 copy of a Pointer of the Red Lotus here. Wrapping up some of the slightly more interesting things that, players are kind of bringing to the table here. Good stuff. The fact that, Bice Steel's kind of doing things. Okay. Next up here, we have, this is like the Anime special. What was this, out of the Anime Central tournament this weekend? They made top 8, and of course, it's wild to see like the crazy innovations that I see Azzy bring to the table all the time here. The love for Necroface inclusion, with your Thunder Dragon package is kind of crazy good. And once again, you have all of these good cards here to kind of keep this going. And then, of course, 40 or 60 cards with double crossout designator. You really do love to see it. So we have 1 copy of Agido, triple copies of the Aloof Lupine with triple copies of Ash Blossom and Joy Spring. Got 1 copy Collapse Serpent with your 1 Jerusalem. Got triple Magna Hut with 1 Navianeer. We have triple copies of Diviner of the Herald with triple copies of Droll and Lockbird. Then, of course, we have 1 Kelbeck with 2 copies of Mental Tuner. I actually think Mental Tuner has been by far their favorite card for this deck. We have triple Necroface with triple copies of Gamma. We have 2 Lubellion with 2 copies of the Chaos Creator. Triple Little Thunder Dragon with triple Thunder Dragon Dark. We have a 1 Thunder Dragon Duo, 1 Dragon Hawk with triple Dragon Roar, 1 Wyvern Buster, and 1 Driver. Then we have triple Allure Darkness, 1 Called by the Grave, triple Chaos Base, 2 Croissant Designators, triple copies of E-Telly, 1 Gold Stark, and 2 copies of Thunder Dragon Fusion here, wrapping up the power of the main deck. Then in the extra deck, we have 1 Underworld Goddess, 1 Zero Boros with 1 Sarusha, we have 1 Lambda with 1 Cross Sheep, 1 Appaloosa with 1 Qingying, got 1 Stardust with 1 copy Chaos Beast, 1 Chaos Angel with 1 Dissipator, got 1 Baron with 1 Excel Synchro, and 2 copies of Titan. Then we have triple copies of Space Rock, triple copies of Dark World No More, 2 Dimensional Fish with triple copies of Anti-Spell. We have 1 Intrude of the Branded, and triple copies of Evenly Matched here, wrapping up, once again, some of your rogue interesting stuff out here. Next up here is a 3v3 team deck list for Despia. Now, all little things aside here, seeing Despia and the little innovations that the deck has needed to have to keep up have been very interesting. One of them is, Red Eyes Dark Dragoon here. You do get free wins with this card, contrary to popular belief, the people that don't think that you need this card. It has definitely been on the upwards more success rate for the deck than, some of the other versions out here. So we have 1 copy of Ad Lidium, 1 copy of Albion, the Shrouded Dragon, triple copies of Alooper, 2 copies of Ash Blossom and Joy Spring. We got 2 Blazing Cartesias with 1 Snoraneer. Got 1 Tragedy with triple copies of Droll and Lockbird. Got triple Fallen of Albez with your 1 Gimmick Puppet Nightmare. We got 1 Quem with 1 Lubellion and 1 copy of Mercurier. And then we have 1 Dark Magician. Then we have triple Branded Fusion with your 1 Branded Red, 1 Branded Lost with your 2 Branded Openings. Got 1 Cold by the Grave with your triple Cross of Designator. Still definitely going to be relying on this card. Like, contrary to popular belief, like, getting hand trapped sucks. So you have to rely on this to kind of keep the game going. We have 1 Foolish Burial with 2 Fusion Deployment, triple Super Poly, 1 Branded Banishment, 1 Expulsion, and 1 Retribution. And then we have 1 Lulu Walleth, 1 Red Eyes Dark Dragoon, 1 Draco Stapelia with 1 Mudmud. Got 2 copies of Mirror Jade with 2 copies of Lubellion. Got 1 Guardian Chimera with 1 copy of the Dust Dragon. Got 1 Garua, 1 Albion, 2 copies of other Albion, and 1 Alba Lenitus. And then you got 1 Drosworm, 2 Magna Huts, 2 Godarlas, triple Cosmic Cyclone, 2 Talents, 2 Ripple Evenly, and 2 copies of There Can Only Be No Fun Allowed. Wrapping up, well, another little take here for what you can kind of expect for the meta. Okay. I mean, it's just Despia shenanigans at this stage. Next up here, we had Naturia. No, just kidding. This is actual pure Runic. The reason why I actually wanted to talk about this was I have not seen hardly any Runic out here. And for what builds that I have seen, they've been very far in between. So we are actually relying on some Messenger of Peace shenanigans here. Yeah, this duelist decided that they wanted to kind of play more 2-ofs, which I think is fine. I mean, though 2 Messenger of Peace always feels a little bit weird to me, but okay, we also had to rely on Lava Golems and the Mono Awados. You need a mono in order to play the game. Like, this card turns your opponent off for the turn, so you can actually interact. I'm not trying to get hand trapped. So we have triple copy of the Giant Rock, 2 copies of Lava Golem. Got 1 Card Demise with 2 copies of Messenger Peace. Got 2 Potted Desires with your triple Runic Destruction. 1 Dispelling with triple Flashing Fire, triple copies of Fountain, triple copies of Curses, your 1 Droplet. Actually interesting to see that this is seeing play again. We have triple copies of Slumber with 1 Smiting Storm, triple copies of Tip, 1 Terraforming, and then we have 2 Gozen, 2 Rivalry, 2 Skill Drain, and 2 copies of There Can Only Be One here, wrapping up the main deck. Now in the extra deck, we have 1 Donner, 1 Dugaris the Timeless, 1 Baguski the Tired, we got 1 Exciton of Equal, and then we have triple copies of Moonin, triple copies of Hugin, triple copies of Gary, and 2 copies of Frecky. Then we're actually playing 2 Fossil Dyna. This is actually kind of cool. Keep in mind, establishing a Fossil Dyna does kind of take away, you know, some of your protection that you could possibly have, but I think having the Fossil Dyna set up is kind of a little bit better. We have 1 copy Called by the Grave, triple Cosmic Cyclone, triple Dark Ruler No More, 2 Heat Wave, 1 copy of Runic Allure, so this is meant to accelerate, and we're actually playing triple copies of Dark Bribe here, wrapping up your main deck. I personally would like 3 Solemn Judgments, but alright. Next up here, we have 1 more list for Branded, but this list is playing a copy of Jowgen here. You know, there's always going to be cool things that you can do, but like, we're really getting saucy out here if we're seeing this. It's also kind of interesting to see Ecclesia back in the main deck. So we have 1 copy of Albion, triple copies of Aluber, 2 copies of Ash Blossom and Joy Spring with 1 Blazing Cartesia. We have 1 Saronir with 1 Tragedy. We have triple Draw and Lockbird with triple copies of Fallen of Albez. We got 2 Ghost Ogre with 1 Quem, 1 Ecclesia, and 1 Jowgen. We have 1 Spriggan's Kit with 1 Lubellion. Got 1 Mercurier with 1 Dark Magician. Triple Branded Fusion with your 1 Branded High Spirits. 1 Branded in Red. We have 1 Branded Lost with triple Opening. 1 Foolish Burial with your triple Fusion Deployment. Triple Nadir Servant. 2 copies of Talents. And 1 copy of Retribution. Then we have 2 Lulu Walleth. Alright. We have 1 copy of Sprind with 1 Rinbroom. 2 Rinbroom, 1 Dragoon, triple Mirror Jade, 1 copy of Lubellion, 1 Guardian Chimera, 1 Grand Dusk, 1 Albion, and 2 little Branded Dragons. And then, of course, we have 2 copies of Magna Hut, 1 Pankratops, 2 Gamma Seal with 1 Performa Pal 5 Rainbow, triple Cosmic Cyclone, triple Evenly Matched, and triple copies of There Can Only Be No Fun Allowed here, wrapping up, well, your interesting breakdown here of decks. So what do you guys think about these? Because there's a lot of interesting things to kind of unpack here, especially, you know, some of the more interesting little runic innovations. So kind of keep that in mind. So please leave a comment down below. Tell me what you guys think, and I will see your beautiful faces back here later and do some more cool ass content. Peace out. Patrons, thank you.
Thank you so much for watching. Check out these other videos.